6 years that I've been in marching band, I've heard the argument of whether marching band is or isn't a sport. To be completely honest, the idea of marching band being a sport never really mattered to me. I only cared about doing what I loved and spending time with my fellow band members during the few months that we had together. Over the past few months, marching band has left a large hole within me that I don't yet know how to feel. I no longer have the friends that I used to hang out with, and slowly but surely we have all drifted apart with the start of college. But as I was listening to a podcast that I absolutely love, I heard that all too familiar argument that I've grown to tune out over the years. Is marching band a sport? Well, as I've come to learn, it is not that easy of an answer. There are many different and varying reasons for people to want marching band to be an official sport, and it really surprised me. To even start trying to break this down, we need to define what a sport is. According to dictionary.com, a sport is that athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess and often of a competitive nature, such as racing, baseball, tennis, golf, bowling, wrestling, boxing, hunting, fishing, etc. But with that vague of a definition, it is easy to say that almost anything can be a sport. So to delve deeper into this subject, we must look into the philosophy of sport. According to Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, a sport can be divided into two categories: formalism and conventionalism. Formalism is the idea that a sport is entirely defined by its rules. According to this, no sport is the same, and you can determine if a sport is actually a sport based off of its given rule set. With that said, most sports do share commonalities such as goals, means, rules, and a certain attitude among the game players. Devine and Lopez Frias also stated in their paper that sports are goal-directed activities that can be divided into two distinct goals: illusory goal, which is winning a competition, and a pre-illusory goal, which is the steps taken to get to the desired goal of winning. Next is conventionalism, which is a way of thinking about sports that doesn't just rely on the given rules of the game. Conventionalism in sports is a really important part of sports because it does believe that rules, while necessary, they can't possibly cover every possible scenario. It also states that there are unwritten rules, or norms, that are part of the game and can sometimes even clash with the original rules of said game. Well, if we base it on that, I think we can all agree that we got our answer. Marching band is indeed a sport. Case closed. Thank you for your time. But even with this definition, people still argue against marching band being a sport. That is because marching band is also considered a performing art. Barry News states that despite the fact that the dictionary may characterize marching band as a sport, there are certain associations that go along with the word sport. Sports exclusively involve physical exertion, while marching band is more of a performing art because it involves playing of an instrument that relays artistic expression. I personally have never heard of the term performing arts before, so this really took me off guard. Once I looked into it more though, I found that it really does fit marching band perfectly. Once again, on dictionary.com, performing arts are defined as arts or skills that require public performance as acting, singing, or dancing. This is where things really start to get tricky, because marching band truly does fit both categories. It requires a large amount of physical strength and stamina to perform, but it is also a competition based on music capabilities. Another important argument that is frequently used is that marching band is a judged competition. The problem with judged sports is that there is always a panel of judges that give their own professional opinion and bias during a competition. While these individuals are professionals, that still doesn't take away from the fact that they are human beings with preferences, bias, and preconceived thoughts on the athlete at play. But even still, this in and of itself should not take away the integrity of the sport. As Rachel Hecke stated, some judges score people higher for having long lines and extension, while others might penalize the hardest for flexed feet. Some judges even prefer certain body types. Still, I think that disqualifying them as a sport is an injustice to the athletes who put in countless hours of training and dedication. She also stated in another part of the article that some feel that when a competition's winner is not determined in an entirely objective way, it nullifies the purpose of the competition. The objectiveness of a sport should never be the sole consideration of its sportsmanship. As stated earlier, there is so much more to a sport than its competition, and sport fans need to start realizing this fact. So, we need to start asking the big question here. Why does it even matter if marching band is a sport? Well, for starters, the easiest answer is funding. Marching bands from all over the country struggle to get funding, not just from their school, but the school district as well. A majority of the bands get their funding from fees or dues that the parents have to pay in order for their kids to even be a part of the marching band, as well as any other required fundraising opportunities that the band offers. More times than not, this is the one and only way that marching bands can get their money and are able to function. According to Jacob Fayville, because of marching band currently not being classified as a sport, schools don't always fund their marching band as well as they would fund a sport. This leads to marching bands with inferior, broken, or outdated equipment. With these supplies, it becomes harder to maintain or possess an impressive band. While the band is having financial problems year after year, other sports such as football are receiving personal funding from the school, allowing them to purchase new equipment, uniforms, better practice areas, and travel. Many sports such as football, basketball, and volleyball receive such funding, which, all things considered, makes sense. These sports do go out, represent the school, and, well, either raise or lower their reputation. But another reason is for safety. Most sports require a student to take a physical, otherwise known as a pre-participation physical evaluation, before participating in a given sport. A physical is an exam done on a person that evaluates their medical history as well as their physical wellness. Some examples of this are finding hereditary medical issues, allergies, past surgeries or medical complications, checking for blood pressure, vision, pulse, and the heart and lungs. This extra precaution of safety provides more opportunities for kids to be active in a sport that they love. Mary Gavin states that a sports physical can help find out about and deal with health problems that might interfere with their sports performance or increase the chance of getting hurt. For example, if you have frequent asthma attacks, the doctor can adjust your medicines that you can breathe more easily when you run. As marching band has become more commercialized and widely spread, Texas has officially deemed marching band as a sport, mandating that performers must have a physical done before arriving at band camp. Lastly is commercialization and profit. As I stated before, with Texas deeming marching band as a sport, extra funding has been given to these Texas marching bands, allowing them to grow and better their music programs. The San Antonio Report interviewed Mr. Laftery Asbill, who said, "Texas is definitely known and recognized by music educators throughout the country as really having premier programs. Texas bands are of a very high caliber, and not just marching bands, but also program-wide. With this recognition, these bands have been able to commercialize themselves on streaming platforms such as Flow Marching, which is a branch of Flow Sports. This streaming service records live footage of these nationwide marching band competitions, allowing people to see the best of the best across the U.S. The San Antonio Report also states that there are around 110 bands in the BOA, or also known as the Bands of America Grand Finals, which are all live streamed to the world. This extra bit of spotlight has thrown marching band back in the picture, making people question once again, is it truly a sport? While much of the competition is based on musical performance, it's hard to say that the musicians who walk out on that field are not athletes. Each and every student on that field has shown incredible physical prowess and skill, marching in incredible heat, maintaining breath support, and keeping their body in the utmost physical shape that they can. Even if no one can definitively say whether or not marching band is or is not a sport, we should never let that take away from the hours of hard work and dedication each and every person leaves out on that field once they're done. In conclusion, when having this argument over whether an activity is a sport or not, we lose sight of the importance of a sport. These people are human beings that have trained for hours on end to give you and me entertainment, awe, and amazement when we watch them. It doesn't matter if it's a sport, just activity, or a performing art. We need to throw the word sport out the window for a second and appreciate what these men and women are. They are all athletes through and through, and they deserve nothing but the utmost respect from each and every one of us.